Hey, welcome to this video or podcast, depending on how you're listening or watching to this. This is the first time I'm trying this, so you'll have to forgive me if anything goes wrong. It's also a very hot day, so I may end up dripping with sweat or losing concentration because in the office it is horrendous. But in this video, podcast video, the plan is to cover a topic that we are asked about a lot, and I think it's because our view on this stuff is a bit different to what is taught in the market at the moment. So there's kind of the common consensus or the message that a lot of people are putting out there, which is that you should focus your time when you're starting out as an online coach by doing one-to-one coaching. And we say basically the opposite, right? Which is that one-to-one coaching, if you're not careful, can end up actually being something that you create this cage for yourself when you're operating as a coach. And so we're asked about this a lot. A lot of people who've watched some of our free content or attend one of our webinars or read any of our emails ask us, why is it that you guys talk about this stuff so often? Why is it that group coaching is the main method you cover in terms of how you should be delivering coaching? So in this video, I'm basically going to explain how we arrived at the conclusion that we are at in terms of group coaching being the thing you should do, why group coaching works online and kind of how it works online as well. It's a pretty big topic, and it's something we cover a lot in the Propane Business Program that we give access to and coach PTs, coaches, nutritionists, etc. in to deliver their coaching online. So I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but I am going to cover it at a high level so that hopefully you leave this video or this podcast with something to apply. I am going to be drinking some coffee, some sparkling water as I go to keep me awake. And also try and keep me, so the coffee will warm me up and then the water will cool me down again, I guess. So, one-to-one versus group coaching. So why is it that we talk about one-to-one? Why is it that we talk about group coaching? What is the difference? All right, so one-to-one, at least as it relates to, obviously everyone will know the difference as it relates to offline coaching, right? But online, one-to-one coaching is where there is you and there is your client, and obviously there is money changing hands, and basically what you give them is your time. Okay, so you are replying to their messages, you are sending them plans. A lot of this stuff tends to be done in a bespoke way, a bespoke sense, right? So you are doing things from scratch a lot of the time, and if they have a question, they are asking you for that question. So, and kind of a conceptual, on a conceptual level, you have a resource, which is you, right? Which is the thing that the client is, and then you have use a different color. You have your client, right? And your client is drawing on you every time they have a question and they need something from you. And you are then feeding back to them and sort of spending time replying to your messages. So typically this is done with, like, you have 24/7 support over WhatsApp, Messenger, something like that. You have plans that are sent that are bespoke. You have maybe some kind of PT app that you're using and managing your clients in. And generally speaking, in terms of managing this person, it depends how good or bad your systems are. But if you imagine a scenario whereby someone is sending you a check-in once a week and then messaging you once, 2, 3, 4 times a week. Usually we see anywhere from between 45 minutes to 60 minutes per week in terms of managing that person. And the rates that are charged for one-to-one coaching online range from all the way as low as like 20 to 30 pounds, okay, up to sort of what we charge for our one-to-one service, which is about 200, and some people do charge more than that, okay? So that would be how I would typically talk about one-to-one coaching online. So the programs are delivered and typically built bespoke. The support is delivered one-to-one via a communication or a chat with the client, and they are using you as the resource. Okay, so if they have a question or if they need something, you are what is answering that or giving them what they need. If we compare that to, so that's how we started, right? I'll talk to you about how we arrived at the conclusion before I talk about what group coaching actually is. So we were in this position where Yusuf and I both had around 20 to 30 one-to-one clients, all of whom were paying about 50 to 60 pounds a month on average. And we were doing this in evenings, in weekends, and it was done over email. The time we were doing this, we're talking in like 2013, we were at this point. So we were doing email, everything was done on Excel, and sharing the clients or Word, sharing the client documents and the plans with them. And it was a 24 to 48 hour response time in terms of if someone needed something from us, they could message us and we would get back to them in that window of time. That was how we ran things. Okay, but we realized very quickly two things, and these were the two sort of key realizations. Firstly, this number, if we wanted to get our revenue targets to where we wanted them to be, this number was going to have to double or triple. And the problem with that is it was taking 20 plus hours per week to give everyone a good service. Okay, so every time a new client bought from us, there was this onboarding window of, right, well, that person needs a new plan from us, that person needs questions answering, that person needs support, and all these sorts of things. So we'd have this new client enroll who needed maybe 2 hours that week or 3 hours that week. And then on an ongoing recurring basis, they needed about an hour or sometimes less. Sometimes people wanted calls and all this sort of stuff, right? So it was taking 20 hours a week. So even to double that, and that was each, right? So 40 hours in the week in the business to manage between 40 and 60 clients. If we wanted to double that, that was quickly becoming more than a full-time job, which we were working full-time at the time. Okay, so very quickly we realized what it is that we are selling here is our time. And that is by very nature scarce. And the main problem with it is not that your clients shouldn't be getting your time, because they should in a way, but it was more that what was also very manual in the way we were running things, which is also very common for coaches starting out, is the marketing and the sales and every other aspect of the business was also done manually by us. So every new client that came on board, it made it less likely for us to be able to market and sell to get a new client in, right? So every hour of delivery took away from an hour of marketing and sales, which took away from an hour of creating content or making systems or improving the business as a whole. Because we were the thing that we were selling. We were selling our time, we were selling our expertise, but delivered one-to-one all the time. So the other option was, well, we can up our prices, which a lot of people look to do, but you are constrained by, firstly, what your marketing and your sales systems can actually sell, and secondly, what are the market norms? Like, what could I actually sell, right? What do I feel like I could confidently sell? How good is my system? How good is my coaching? How good is the marketing, the messaging, and all the stuff that I'm doing? So to grow the business, we realized that the way we were operating wasn't working, and we tried upping our pricing. So we tried, helps if you can spell. We tried high ticket, and I talk about this a lot. We tried high ticket, which meant lots of time spent on the phone, lots of time trying to sell people this kind of, it's often 997 or more, right, up to 5,000, 6,000 for online fitness coaching. And we found simply that the client volume dropped. It was taking a lot of our time to sell something. It was taking a lot of our time for us to get one client. And also we just realized, like, there's not that many people in our niche, because our niche was someone that, and still is someone that Yusuf and I kind of, even some of our friends are that niche, right? It's kind of who we used to be in the finance world. We realized we didn't know that very many people who would pay that. So we wanted to keep the price reasonable. All right, we wanted to hit our financial goals, which would allow us to do this full time, which is obviously where we're at now. Excuse me. And we realized that for us to get to that point, something needed. You can cut this bit out. And we realized for us to get to that point, we needed something that allowed us to tolerate more clients without necessarily skyrocketing the price. And that's how we started to think about this, right? And around a similar time, you can scrub this out as well, please. Around this time, Yusuf and I came across this idea of a flywheel. Well, a few things happened, right? One, we read the book called The E-Myth, which if you haven't read that, I would strongly recommend. A book called The E-Myth, which talks about systems and running your business and how In the beginning, the business is reliant on you, and then you gradually start to almost like build it like you were going to sell it, right? We realized that the way this business was run, not that we have any intentions to sell the business, but if we tried to sell this, it just relied on us. So as soon as one of us took a week off, or as soon as one of us felt unwell or whatever, the business directly took an impact, because the marketing and the sales were being done manually. We were just posting on social media as many times as we could to try and get engagement and inquiries. Our coaching was done completely manually. So if we couldn't reply to messages, our clients felt the impact of that. If we couldn't write a new plan on time, our clients felt the impact of that. If we forgot to send something to someone by a certain time, our clients felt the impact of that, okay? So we were running this very manually, and if one of us disappeared, part of the business disappeared with it. And the E-Myth really kind of highlighted that, right? So we were in this position where we knew what we were doing wasn't really working, but we weren't really sure what to change. We came across this idea called the flywheel, which was, we talk about it in all sorts of business books at the moment, but it's mainly discussed in the context of Amazon. Okay, so if we look at the flywheel as it works in Amazon, the idea is, okay, people buy from Amazon. Okay, so customers buy from Amazon. They do that because there's a lot of choice, right? Free shipping, quick delivery, you get it by the next day. It's a brilliant service, right? So people buy from Amazon, and that means that there are people, more companies, more individuals are attracted to sell on Amazon, all right? Which means in turn, there is more choice on Amazon, which means that more customers buy from Amazon. In other words, the more successful Amazon's model is, the more successful the model is, right? The more people who buy from it, the more people selling it, the more choice there is, the better the infrastructure is, because the more Amazon can invest, the more money Amazon make, which means the delivery gets better, which means the service gets better, which means the website gets better, which means the support gets better, which means there's more customers, which means there's more people buy on there, which means there's more sellers, and the whole thing expands. And that's obviously why Jeff Bezos is doing okay, right? Because there's an inherent model inside of the business, which is that the more successful it becomes, the better the entire operation becomes, which for most coaches, especially coaches doing one-to-one, if you have this goal, let's say, really common goal is I want to do 6 figures, right? Which is £8,333 a month, which if you, let's say you want to charge, just to keep the numbers simple, £100 a month, you're going to have to be coaching 83-ish, right? We'll call it 85 customers, 85 clients. Now, if I said to you, you're going to coach people one-to-one with 85 people, and it takes you, even if it takes you half an hour a week to manage every need of each of those clients, you're very quickly going to run into problems, right? You haven't got any time to do anything else really, unless you're just working 12, 13-hour days, which you can only, it doesn't matter who you are, you can only do for so long. And the quality of your service is going to drop pretty significantly. So what we were starting to find was, for every new customer we got, it meant that our service became less reliable, which meant that our old customers and our new customers got a worse service. And this is because, we were the thing we were selling, which is a finite resource, right? There's only so many people who can basically demand information, time, and stuff from Yusuf and I before we run out of time, right? We don't have the capacity mentally or physically to deal with that stuff. So this is where the issue of price comes in, okay? If you're in the position where your marketing and your sales are working, and that's a different conversation, right? A lot of people are doing things where they just don't have the volume to get the customers they need. They don't have the marketing and the sales systems to get the customers that they need, which is a different problem altogether. Okay, if you're coaching 10 clients, you can do that one-to-one. If you're coaching 5 clients, you can do, probably even up to 20 or 30, you can do that one-to-one and it's fine. All right, and you then enter into this conversation of, well, do I need to change my price? And a lot of coaches say, well, look, if you're only going to coach 10, 15 people, or you hear people even, they're super reductionists and say, just get 30 one-to-one clients at £250 a month. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, just make loads of money. Just get loads of clients. It's easy. Why would anyone struggle? The reality is, £250 a month for a lot of people, maybe like 50% of their living costs, for example. It may be more than they're paying on their car and their insurance. It's a lot of money to pay for a recurring service. And so that means to justify that, you need a very strong offer, you need a very strong marketing mechanism, you need a way of consistently bringing those people in. Not many people can get to that, okay? What we typically do with pricing, and this is stuff we've tested over and over again, we will say the initial program, the initial transaction that someone buys from us is between basically, I mean, 7s are proven, you see them all over the place, they're proven to increase the likelihood of someone buying something, which is why you see them all over the place. But between, let's say, 150 and 300 pounds for a 6 to 12 week program that then leads into something that is between 97 and 199 a month. Okay, if you've seen any webinars, you'll see me talking about that. That's basically our pricing, that's how it works. So if we're gonna sell that and we wanna hit our financial goals, and I'll not go into what our goals are with Propane right now, right? But let's say, in my example, you wanna make 4,000 or 3,000 a month, you need 30 to 40 clients on this tier, roughly speaking, which means, and you're gonna have some of these people leave, which means you need to sell more of these, right? You need a conversion mechanism. And this is just to sell something that's on the lower end of the market, right? The lower end of the price range. You have people trying to sell super high ticket over pushy sales calls, but they're still struggling and people still struggle to sell this stuff. So if you're going in saying like, look, this is the market norms, this is probably what I think the market can tolerate, this is where I'm going to set my pricing, which is what we recommend. You need 30 to 40 people to make this a full-time thing if that's what you want it to do. You need to be in a position where you can easily handle 30 to 40 people. Because if you're handling 30 to 40 people and it's taking you a few hours a day at most, you've then got all this other time to try and grow the business, right? So one of the things we look for in terms of a scalable operation is, does your coaching delivery time increase when you get a new client? If it does, you are still just selling your time, all right? So that's the scalability test. Does one new client equal a linear or a proportional increase in your time? So if you can say, right, well, I'm doing 20 clients equals 20 hours, 30 clients equals 30 hours, that is inherently a model that is limited entirely by you. And eventually you will get tired, you will forget to send an email. If something relies on you, it will eventually break. What we want to see instead is something that is 20 clients equals 10 hours, 30 clients equals 11 hours. That sort of relationship, right? That means you are creating leverage. In other words, you put in something, an input which is X, and you get 3 times X or 4 times X for every bit of time you put in. Okay, that's what we're trying to create. And this is how we came up with this idea, or we started to move towards this idea of, look, we need to be doing something that is not reliant on us. We looked at this flywheel model and we're like, if we don't have something like this in the business, we are going to really struggle. Now, all of this is said, none of this is relevant if you don't have something that is consistently selling your services. And if you aren't in that position, that will be where I'd recommend you start. So what we suggest is you build something, that's terrible, you'll have to forgive me for that. You build something, we use a 14-day challenge where we're spending money on advertising. This converts at 3 to 5%, selling something which is 147 to 297, depending on the market. You're converting cold traffic, strangers, into this offer, which is more than covering your ad spend. Okay, so if you spend £100, you might make 150 on the first transaction. So you look at that and say, well, how are you running a business full time if that's what it is, if that's your margin, right? But the key thing is, if we get between 66% and 75% of the people who buy this program to become a recurring client at £97 a month to £199 a month, depending on the amount of coaching support they get from us, then we are building this recurring revenue. And it's a matter of time before these numbers hit 30 plus whatever your goals are for your finances, right? So we have that model, that system that is running, and this isn't also requiring our time. Okay, once this, obviously building it takes a lot of time, right? But once this is running, this is roughly speaking, and I've done another video on the YouTube channel, which you can go and see, where I talk about like a day in the life of the sort of the critical things that I do. But this can be managed in about 30 minutes per day. And that 30 minutes is looking at the marketing dashboard, making sure, are the ads we're spending money on, Are they getting leads at the right cost, at the right price rather? Are they bringing people in? Is the model converting? All that sort of stuff. All right. So once you're at that point, it's like, right, well, we need something that is able to handle those 30 people in a couple of hours a day so that I can still focus on growing my business, and I'm not just getting myself in a position where I was a super busy offline PT, now I'm a super busy online PT, and now my clients can message me at 10 p.m. to say, can I have 2 glasses of wine instead of 1? Right, so we realized as we were coaching people one-to-one, and we were coaching people who were more and more the same market, in week 1, it was like, oh, they have these kinds of questions, they need these kind of downloads, they need these kinds of plans, okay? In week 2, it's like, oh, it's the same thing again. They're getting these same kind of questions. They need these kind of downloads. They need this sort of documentation. And actually we realized the programming looked pretty similar. The questions, the journey, the path these people went through was looking pretty similar. And so there were aspects of it that we realized, well, this could be standardized. Like if I'm replying to the same question 5 times a day, the 5th person's going to get a worse response than the 1st person. If I'm writing the same program 6 times a week, the 6th one's going to be slightly worse because you get bored of it, right? There's only so many times you can say, oh, well, this is how progressive overload works, all right? Before that starts to become just not really enjoyable for you as a coach. So instead of us having this situation where we were the resource that clients were dragging on, instead, we moved this across and said, look, we are going to build something that is a program, right? That is an asset in the business, and that is what clients initially get the help from, okay? We are still there as coaches to provide the kind of the customization to this, all right? So we still help our clients get a customized experience, but a lot of the standardized answers are taken care of. And what that looks like in practice is, if you imagine someone is working with us over a 6-week period, it may be that they get a sequence of videos, they get a sequence of documents and articles that is taking them on this journey from, I'm at point A, I'm stuck at this position, I'm looking to lose weight, I'm stuck. And these are what normally happens in week 1, what normally happens in week 2, etc. That's how that works. That's our program. There's documents, there's videos, there's modules, there's resources that we've created ahead of time. It's the best version of our explanation of all these things. And we are still there providing in each week, basically, the cherry on the cake, right? We're answering any questions that we don't have answers to. We are adding to the resources, adding to the program. And what this creates is when someone buys, they may ask a question, right? Which means we build a resource, an answer, another video, another module that we add to the program, which means that every person who buys improves the program, improves the system, which means over time, the number of things that we've done means that every subsequent client we get, we're actually building this situation where our coaching time's not going to increase. It may even decrease because the program's so complete, because what we're selling is this resource with our help rather than just our help. And that means you can do group Q&A. It means you can do group check-ins. And obviously making all of this work is something we teach inside of Propane Business. Okay, I'm not going to go into the mechanics of exactly how this works, but hopefully some of the stuff I've said here has made you think, oh, okay, like I get it now. I get why they're talking about, build one-to-one coaching. Build group coaching, not one-to-one coaching. If someone is saying something like, oh, just get loads of, just get 30 clients at £100 or £200 or £250 a month, it's easy. That's only the case when your marketing isn't working almost. Like if your marketing isn't working, then yeah, try and sell something a bit more expensive and do one-to-one because there's no point in worrying about anything else. But as soon as your marketing does start to work, this will become an issue and you will become very quickly the bottleneck in your business, which considering like the main reason why so many people get into this is to create freedom and more flexibility. You are basically removing that ability by selling one-to-one coaching. All right, hopefully this has helped. Hopefully at least one person watching this video is sat there thinking, I'm sold on the idea of group-based coaching, okay? If you would like our help, you're listening to the podcast, or you're on YouTube, drop us an email, send us an email, admin@propanefitness.com, with either the subject line, Propane Business Podcast if you're on podcast, or Propane Business YouTube if you're on YouTube. We'll get in touch with you. We'll bump you straight to the front of the application key for the Propane Business Program. We'll have a chat, see if we can help. If you would just like more resources from us, if you'd like some free training, you can either click below the video if you're on YouTube to get that, or you can go to propanefitness.com/business podcast and get some free training where I basically go into all this stuff in a bit more detail. Plus I cover the marketing, the sales, and all the stuff that glues this together. Hopefully this video was helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Speak to you soon.